start recording, huh? Okay, and today is the 6th of November. So the first of the 3 strands that we're going to talk about is fossil evidence. Some days I can spell, some days I can't. We'll copy that. What's the second large overarching category? Gesundheit. What is it? Well, structural. Yeah, you're getting to the specifics already. So we have structural evidence of evolution. Of that, Jaden, that first one we talked about, the one that you were trying to say and you were losing the battle. Go ahead. Homologous is how most people start off saying it. Homologous is how we usually say it. Homologous structures. Okay. Give me an example of a homologous structure between 2 different species. They have to exist in different species. Give me one, Alexis. Oh, the tetrapod limb. How many limbs does a tetrapod have? 4. How many limbs could a tetrapod have if a tetrapod did have limbs? And it does, of course. Never mind, that all broke down. Homologous structures. Okay, what's the other one, Kaylee Byers? Vestigial structures. Very good. Vestigial structures. And name me a vestigial structure. The appendix, as far as we know, yes. Though it seems to have some adapted use or modified use. It's useful. What's another one? Snake or whale legs. And we talked a lot about wisdom teeth in here the other day. Let me make this one clear. Is there a big pressure on humans to evolve out of having 4 wisdom teeth? How many of you know somebody who has died of infected wisdom teeth? An infected wisdom tooth? Who died of it? Yes? Okay. That's unusual. That's very unusual. So in an area in a time when we, for the most part, have access to antibiotics and modern dentistry, do you think that that's a big killer of people? Probably not. Probably not real common. So we're probably still going to see people who have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have somebody who says that they have 8 wisdom teeth. Very unusual at the high end of the distribution in terms of number of wisdom teeth, but possible. So, still a vestigial structure, but not one that we're seeing a lot of evolutionary pressure on. Okay, the third category, and I'm going to shrink this whole thing. The third large category is what? Talk at your tables. What's the third big category? Now, mind you, there are hundreds of strands of evidence. These are just the 3 that are easiest to talk about and clearest, so the ones that we focus on here. What's the third major category? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Chemical evidence, yeah. Good, Kaylee. Chemical evidence of evolution. And I'm going to get really nitpicky and pain in the tuchus. I'm going to say the first chemical that we talked about. Sorry, am I making you nervous? Standing right behind you. Like a vulture. What's the first chemical we talked about? DNA. Give me a D. D. No? No. Nobody ever wants to play with me. Okay, so DNA. I'm going to be a real pain, and I'm going to break this down and make this all like real serious outliney. And I'm going to say that there are 2 facets to the fact that we talk about DNA evidence. And the first way that DNA evidence, the first way that DNA is evidence for biological evolution is the fact that every living thing on Earth, every Earth life form uses DNA. Every single living thing on Earth. You, a jellyfish, a blue whale, an earthworm, a ladybug, a cockroach. Woohoo! Don't we feel fancy now? A horse, to name something a little bit grander. Huh? My little buddy is actually in a little habitat right in there. I'll pull him out in the last minute or so. Her. She did spend the weekend at my house. She's going back to the woods after school today. I couldn't get her out there in time Friday. So anyway, every living thing on Earth, that salamander, uses DNA to pass on their genetic information. The second part of the DNA piece is looking at shared DNA sequence. Shared DNA sequence. So what's a DNA sequence?
The way the chemicals in DNA is arranged.
Okay, it's the actual letters. It's those base pairs. A, T, C, G, 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 C, T, A, G, G, A, C, 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 T, T, A, G, G, C, U. No U's. That's the DNA sequence. So what we had started to talk about is comparing DNA sequences. This is where we left our heroes. Can we take two living things and compare their DNA sequences and see how similar they are? Yeah. Can we do that between two humans to see how related they are? Definitely. Have you ever watched Maury Povich? Who's the daddy? What are they doing? They're comparing DNA sequences to see how much is shared. Can we do that between two individuals from different species? Yes. So, the thing that you built today, the thing that you built in Module 2, this thing, what's that called? Phylogenetic tree. And it's a little different than the ones that we saw earlier in the year, earlier in this unit. We saw one that looked more like, let me shrink that. Let's see, looked more like this, if you remember that. Yeah, that weird, crazy looking family tree of all living things on Earth. The one that they're using is a little bit neater, just a little. What was the basis for creating this phylogenetic tree? Head up, Miranda. So it told you, and if you were able to open Mabel, did anybody get Mabel to open? You did? You got the Mabel program to open and you were able to paste the code in? No? Okay. If you had gotten, I forget what Mabel stands for, that other website to open, you could paste all the DNA sequences in there. But they just did it for you. So this is based on DNA sequence. This is based on shared DNA sequences. You okay? Okay. That's how they built this phylogenetic tree. So here's the question. And if you just completed this, this should be pretty easy for you. Between this species, Anolis sheplani, and Lysophallus carinatus, or A. cristatellus and A. pucellus. Which two are more closely related? The ones I circled in purple or the ones I circled in red? Circled in red. Who would you expect to share more portions of their DNA sequence? The ones circled in red. The more closely related two species are, the more DNA they share. Now, when we talk about phylogenetic trees, there's another word that comes up in biology, and it's cladogram. And there is a difference between a cladogram and a phylogenetic tree, but they often get used interchangeably. When you take the air test in the spring, you're going to see a whole bunch of cladogram questions, in all likelihood. And a cladogram, there's the code. Yeah, that's the DNA code for those lizard species. If you get it to successfully paste into Mabel, see what's created that way. Very often what we look at with a cladogram, instead of looking at all the species that we possibly could, we're looking at a series of species, and we're looking at characteristics that they share in common, traits they share. So we are looking at species A, species B. I could shrink this and add some species. Species C, species D. And we're looking to see, I'm going to put E up there. So, for instance, let's look at you and my salamander friend. 4 limbs. She's in a container up there. 4 limbs. Do you have 4 limbs? Does my salamander friend have 4 limbs? Yes. Does your species give birth to live young? Yes. Does her species give birth to live young? No. She lays eggs and runs away and never cares for them at all. They grow up on their own in the woods, in a pond, somewhere, in a pool, in a puddle. Yeah. No parental care whatsoever. A lot of species are like that. Snakes are like that. Fish are like that. There's no parental care whatsoever. Frogs are like that. Yeah. Lay your eggs in a pond and get the heck out. You know, you might have to lay 1,000 eggs. What? That's what they do. Okay, they might have to lay 1,000 eggs to get 2 or 3 offspring to survive and reproduce. Does anybody here know a human who's had 1,000 babies? Not really biologically feasible. Given the window of human fertility, given the inputs that it takes to have 1,000 babies, humans are not capable of that sort of thing. Frogs are. Question. This cladogram, reel it in, I know, frog eggs, very exciting. This is what's called a cladogram, and it's a way of looking at how closely related 2 species are. It shows evolutionary relationships. So, 2 species that are closer together on a cladogram are going to share more DNA. But here, instead of looking at, we did this phylogenetic tree based on DNA. Prior to the ability to do that, we did this all based on structures. We did this based on structural evidence of relatedness. So we are going to we are going to give you a worksheet where you are going to actually work to construct a cladogram of your own.
All right, so we're looking at that first page, right? It has your procedure on it, that introductory paragraph in your procedure. All right, so your first step is going to be organizing these characteristics with the organism, right? So we have our set of characteristics right here, and it has explanations with them. So we're going to take a look at our first characteristic, which is a dorsal nerve cord. I want everybody to take their hand and put it on the back of their neck. Everybody feel that thing? What do we call that? It's a spine. In your developmental stage, it's a dorsal nerve cord. And any organism that has that dorsal nerve cord in their developmental stage is considered a chordate.
Well, what's inside that bony spine of yours? Huh? A nerve cord. There's a big fat, it's like a telephone wire going down the middle of your spine. That is the big wire, the giant nerve that allows signals to travel from your brain to the rest of your body. That's your dorsal nerve cord. Dorsal means your back. Dorsal fins on sharks are on their back. Dorsal nerve cord. You got one.
All right, so we know we got one, right? So we got a table here on page 3. Okay, everybody flip there. What do you think this first set here is? Our dorsal nerve cord, right? That's what we're looking at. Let's think about a kangaroo. Do you think they have one? Yeah, we're all in agreement on that, right? Anybody know what a lamprey is? It's like an eel, fish-looking, weird-looking creature. Everybody look up a lamprey real quick. Type in lamprey, dorsal nerve cord. Let me see if we got one of those or not.
Lamprey. Spelled for you on paper.
What are we thinking? It's a fish. It's a fish-looking thing. Fish, eel-looking thing.
Yeah. What's your picture?
Most of them got a bunch of little teeth in a sucker. What do you think? Do they got a dorsal nerve cord or not?
No.
What do you think?
Can we say yes or no? Can we just put an X or we say yes?
Just put an X if it's yes. I think they got one. So we got our lampreys that got one, right? What about our monkey?
Yes.
Definitely. Bullfrog? Anybody ever held a bullfrog? They got a backbone, right? Humans. Absolutely. Snapping turtle. They got one? What about tuna?
Yeah.
Tuna?
Yeah.
Yeah, tuna's got
It's a
one.
fish. What you mean?
All right.
Oh, hey, don't assume things, Mr. Hilditch.
So we've established that all these things have a dorsal nerve cord, right? So on your next set here, your paired appendages and vertebral columns, I want you guys to do the same thing we just did. You guys are going to need to use your iPads for research, and we have biology books up here, and we're going to fill out this table here, okay? And when you get to the bottom, the total number of X's, you're going to add them up.
And X means yes, this organism has that thing.
Yeah.
If they don't, you can just leave it blank.
Leave it blank.
So if I write yes or no in the box, I would count the yeses?
Yes, exactly.
All right, so we're working on that right now. Me and Miss Moser will be around helping you, okay?
When you come in tomorrow, we are going to compare notes on this chart. You can get this done before you leave school today. That's a wonderful thing. And tomorrow, we are going to start building the diagram. It's not a traditional Venn diagram like you've seen before. So we'll work on it together, okay? Happy travels, people.